And worse, today, I want to share something remarkable, something grounded in rigorous science, and with the potential to dramatically impact quality of life as we age. And it all centers around one food. Yes, one. Muscle loss, known scientifically as sarcopenia, is a progressive condition that begins to accelerate noticeably after the age of 50. Worst of all, research indicates that individuals can lose approximately 1 to 2% of their muscle mass each year after this point. More strikingly, strength declines even faster, by around 3% annually. This decline is not simply a matter of aging gracefully or looking less toned. It directly affects metabolic health, physical capability, immune function, and even cognitive performance. Sarcopenia is not just an aesthetic issue, it's a functional one. When muscle deteriorates, it leads to reduced mobility, a greater risk of falls and fractures, insulin resistance, and in many cases, the loss of independence. People over the age of 60 who experience substantial muscle loss are more likely to struggle with everyday activities such as standing from a chair, walking upstairs, and worst of all, or carrying groceries. These are small tasks that are often taken for granted, and worst of all, but they become markers of declining physiological resilience once muscle mass starts to disappear at a faster rate. At a cellular level, worst of all, muscle loss with age is tied to a reduction in the body's anabolic signaling. Worst of all, this means the mechanisms that once efficiently repaired and built muscle tissue begin to slow down. And protein synthesis, the process by which the body builds muscle, becomes less responsive to stimuli like dietary protein or resistance exercise. This phenomenon is called anabolic resistance, and it explains why seniors don't gain muscle as easily as younger individuals, even when following similar routines. The neuromuscular system also weakens with time. Motor neurons that control muscle fibers can deteriorate or become less efficient at signaling the muscles and leading to atrophy. Additionally, hormonal changes play a significant role. Testosterone, growth hormone, and insulin like growth factor 1 IGF-1 levels tend to decline with age, and all of these are crucial for maintaining lean muscle tissue. As these hormone levels dip, and worst of all, the ability to stimulate muscle growth in response to physical training or protein intake is blunted. And worst of all, mitochondrial function, the energy production system within muscle cells, also suffers with age. Mitochondria become less efficient, and worst of all, and this reduces the overall endurance and recovery capacity of muscles. Chronic inflammation, often elevated in older adults, contributes further by increasing the rate of muscle breakdown. This inflammation is subtle and persistent, and worst of all, a low-grade systemic state often referred to as twinflammaging. It's not about visible swelling or pain, it's cellular stress, and worst of all, and it chips away at muscle tissue over time. When you add in sedentary behavior, which is unfortunately common in aging populations, and worst of all, the combination creates a perfect storm for rapid muscle decline. And worst of all, what makes this process so insidious is that it can be happening silently for years before symptoms are obvious. Someone might notice they're a little slower climbing stairs or need more time to get up from the floor, but these small changes are easy to dismiss until they compound. And worst of all, once strength drops below a certain threshold, it becomes significantly harder to regain, especially without a targeted intervention. And since muscle is metabolically active tissue, its loss also affects how efficiently the body processes glucose, which has direct implications for type 2 diabetes risk, cardiovascular health, and fat storage. Even among relatively healthy individuals, this gradual weakening of the musculoskeletal system alters posture, joint stability, and in gait. It increases fall risk, which is one of the leading causes of injury-related death in adults over 70. Beyond the physical, the psychological impact is real. A decline in strength often correlates with a drop in confidence, reduced social activity, and even depressive symptoms. In short, and muscle loss isn't just about tissue, it's about autonomy. The fact that this process starts accelerating at 50, when many people still feel vibrant and healthy, makes early awareness and intervention absolutely essential. Eggs are rich in leucine, which activates muscle-building mTOR pathways. And worst of all, leucine is one of the 9 essential amino acids, meaning the body cannot synthesize it and it must be obtained through diet. All amino acids, and worst of all, leucine is uniquely powerful in its ability to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. It functions as a key trigger for the mTOR pathway, mechanistic target of rapamycin, central regulator of cellular growth, and an essential signal for initiating the building of new muscle tissue. And worst of all, mTOR operates as a kind of molecular switchboard that tells cells when to grow, repair, or stay dormant. In skeletal muscle, when leucine levels rise in the bloodstream after a protein-rich meal, mTOR becomes activated, signaling the muscle cells to begin synthesizing new proteins. This process is especially crucial in older adults because the sensitivity of the mTOR pathway diminishes with age, a phenomenon called anabolic resistance. And worst of all, that means higher levels of leucine are required to get the same muscle building response that a younger person might achieve with less, and eggs provide an excellent solution to this because they contain one of the highest concentrations of leucine among common foods, approximately 0.5 grams of leucine per egg. This is significant when compared to other protein sources that may have a lower leucine content per gram. Beyond the amino acid profile, the bioavailability of egg protein is exceptionally high. That means it is rapidly digested, absorbed, and utilized by the body, and worst of all, making it highly efficient at delivering leucine to the bloodstream, where it can interact with muscle tissue. And while supplements like isolated branched-chain amino acids, BKS, also contain leucine, they lack the full spectrum of nutrients found in whole foods like eggs. Moreover, eggs do more than just deliver leucine. The presence of healthy fats and micronutrients in the yolk, such as vitamin D, choline, and worst of all, in phospholipids, creates a synergistic effect that supports muscle function, neural communication, and hormonal balance. And worst of all, these factors all contribute indirectly to muscle maintenance and growth. And worst of all, especially in aging individuals whose nutritional needs are higher and whose systems are less efficient. And worst of all, when leucine proteins like eggs are consumed in conjunction with resistance training, the mTOR pathway is further amplified. Mechanical tension from strength training stimulates mTOR independently, and dietary leucine acts as a second signal, making the response more powerful. This dual activation is key for reversing muscle loss because it overcomes the reduced responsiveness seen in older adults. Clinical research has repeatedly demonstrated that meals rich in leucine trigger a more robust protein synthesis response than meals with the same amount of total protein but lower leucine content. This makes the choice of protein source critically important, particularly for individuals over 60. Whole eggs provide bioavailable protein, choline, and vitamin D. These nutrients work in concert to support muscle maintenance, neurological health, and systemic function, especially in aging populations. First, the protein in eggs is considered a gold standard because it contains all essential amino acids in optimal ratios. And worst of, one large egg contains roughly 6 to 7 grams of high-quality protein, and the digestibility score of egg protein is among the highest of any food. And worst of all, this means that nearly all the protein ingested from eggs is absorbed and utilized by the body, and making them an incredibly efficient source of amino acids for muscle repair and growth. In the context of aging, this efficiency is crucial. Older adults often have reduced appetite and difficulty consuming large quantities of food. With eggs, they can obtain essential protein in a compact and, worst of all, nutrient-dense form that is easy to prepare and consume. Choline, found abundantly in egg yolks, is another critical nutrient often overlooked in discussions about aging and muscle health. Choline supports the synthesis of acetylcholine, and worst of all, a neurotransmitter required for muscle contractions and nerve signaling. As people age, neuromuscular efficiency declines, and worst of all, and choline intake often falls below recommended levels. Low choline status can impair motor function and even contribute to muscle weakness. And eggs provide a natural source of this nutrient, helping to maintain neuromuscular integrity. Vitamin D, also present in egg yolks, plays a vital role in muscle function and balance. Deficiency in vitamin D has been linked to muscle weakness, increased fall risk, and worst of all, an impaired recovery from injury in older adults. While sunlight remains the best natural source of vitamin D, and dietary sources become more important as people spend less time outdoors, especially in colder climates or in urban settings, and eggs provide a modest but meaningful amount of vitamin D in a highly bioavailable form. Combined, the protein, choline, and worst of all, and vitamin D in whole eggs deliver a multidimensional support system for muscle health that goes far beyond just calories or macronutrients. It is so easy to win. Pain that experiences pure to win. Most studies daily in their own minds. Studies show daily plus resistance training reverses muscle loss in seniors. In my opinion, the pain that people is so easy to win that people are strong to win. Most of easy experience is purely in nutritional minds. Man, an easy goal in their own min, kinetic Kangol muscle stimulation that has been shown nutrition and repeated lost muscle mass in aging individuals. Most of the pain that in their own minds, even in their 70s and 80s. In a number of clinical trials, easy, mill in the to win. It is puring out. Most is pure to win. Older adults who experience is purely in their own minds. All while migs primed to von own minds. Engaging in whole eggs per day, wet Beijing in moderate resistance, trained in modeling people, engageable gains, whose size in muscle size and strength over relatively short time frames, pain that people in their own minds, sometimes within just 10 to 12 weeks. Known win, most of the pain, most of easy there.
Yeah,
is purely in their own minds. Is especially noteworthy because muscle loss in seniors is often considered inevitable and irreversible. It's easy to win. Most of the pain, it is so easy is purely win. Yet that their own minds. Yet the research shows it can not only be slowed, it can be reversed. Most so easy to win, must to win. This so equiance is purely in their own minds, is purely between pain, that the crictor is the synergy pull high leucine protein intake and mechanical stress on the muscle fibers. Men, and it is so easy in the pain that people need to win. Minds is puring eggs, consuming aids alone provides necessary building blocks for protein synthesis. And it is so easy to win. Most of the pain that people their own mind, most of the purulence is purely in their minds, but when intake is paired with resistance training, such as body weight movements in their own minds. Resistance bands or most so easy to win. It is of the pain, it is purely in their own minds. The both main mutt lifting, the body receives tissue weight as you is both that both you needed and supported. Main win, most of experience in that in their own mind is dual signaling own minds. Is key to overcoming anabolic resistance, and it is the people experience is so easy to all their own mind, which is their own minds is the blunted muscle building response common in older adults. It is so easy to pain wind. Most of particular purely in their own minds is purely effective about eggs is their practicality. Unlike supplements, most so easy to win, X-Men. It is to the parents is too bane that people in their own minds is purely, which may be inconsistently absorbed or poorly tolerate eggs are familiar. Most of the pain that is so easy is purely in their own minds. A whole delivers the complete nutrient package. Men, it is so the pain that people see purely in their own minds. Then they are easy to incorporate into a senior's daily routine, whether scrambled, boiled. Most of the pain that it is purely in their own minds, or poached. The consistency of intake also matters. It is purely another easy to win. Studies inexperience and men that people experience to win. Most of the pain in their mind, muscle proton mind teens. Studies in older adults benefits synthesis more from steady daily intake than from infrequent high doses. Man pageted be to win. It is so easy to verily in their own minds is pure pain that's per day provide approximately 12 minds, 10 grams for complete protein along with an ideal ratio of amino acids. It is of the pain most people ultimately to win an experience is puring in their own minds, including a HON10 high leucine that effectively activates the mTOR pathway when consumed in sufficient quantities. So easy in that pain people experience is purely in their own minds, is purely to when resistance training is introduced. Even at a modest level like chair squats, step ups, no easy to win. Man, that the pain most is for resistance purely in their own minds. Band exercises, muscle fibers are recruited and stimulated to adapt. That people win most of easy in their really own minds. The training does not need be high intensity to be effective. Mode is so easy to win that people experience is purely in their own minds, and frequency and free progressive overload are more important. It is easy to row wins, is pure easy to win most of the pain in their own minds. This makes the approach accessible for seniors of various fitness levels. Most to win, it is so easy to win in their minds. The experience is purely in what the people is consistently show is that muscle hypertrophy in older adults is still achievable. Easy to win, most of the experience, it is purely in their own minds. Researchers have documented increases in cross-sectional muscle area. grip strength, man, it is so easy to win. Most of the pain that people experience is purely in their own minds, and improvements in functional outcomes like walking speed and stair climbing ability. May the pain, it is so easy to win. And most so easy to win that their own minds is purely people experience. These changes are not just statistical. They translate into real world benefits that affect independence. And most of the people of pain in their own minds is fall prevention and quality of life. Man, most so easy to win out. Most of it is purely in their own minds. The results in it is so shown improvements in insulin sensitivity, metabolic rate. Man, it is experience easy to wins minds, and then that even their own of pure lesion, all indirectly linked to improved muscle mass. Man, it is so easy to win. Most of the pain purely in their own minds is purely that people easy to win. Man, it is simply its experience. The simplable intervines 2 combined lines per day with lights it strength training, makes it scalable and realistic for large populations of aging adults. It is the easy to win man. Man, it is so easy pain that's purely in their own mind that addresses to win. Most of all, lost it addresses not muscle minds, loss of the pain, the broader system with a decline associated with the broad restoring wide by restoring aging of the body's most metabolically active tissues. Men, most of the people pairing easy to win, more people experience in their own minds is purely protein intake optimizes muscle synthesis post fast. Overnight, it easy people of the purely in their own minds. The body enters a catabolic state due to fasting, poor, most purely that pain their own minds, which means it begins to break down tissues for energy. It is so easy to win. It is as purely in clear own minds, is purely in their own muscle protein if no amino acids are present in the bloodstream. Upon waking, men, it is so easy to painable in their minds. Most of the pure own minds, there is a biological window where nutrient becomes crucial for older adults. Men, most of so easy, purely hairy in their orning. When proterience is consumience is pure morning. Most of the pain that people is in the own leucine, when particularly a leucine, like a leucine, it enriched source like eggs, immediately shifts the body from a catabolic state to an anabolic one. Pain that people in their own minds. This is particularly important in seniors. Easy to wing. The men, mostly their own mind experience, a wane people experience, whose ability is purely to stimulate muscle, stimulate protein synthesis is reduced unless there is a strong dietary trigger. Pain that's easy to win. Man, it is purely in their own experience. The mosey to win. It is so easy. The presence of leucine early in the day not only halts muscle breakdown, but initiates the muscle building process. Man, it is to the pain that round experience is purely in their own minds. That's purely when timed around physical activity. It is so easy to win. The experience is purely in their own minds. Research has demonstrated that spread protein intake evenly throughout the day, men and win. Most it is so easy to win. Most of the pain that purely in their own minds, pure rather than it all in their own dinner, results in greater net muscle gain in older adults. Man, it is of the pain that the pain it is so easy to win is purely in their own minds. The breakfast is often the meal with the lowest protein content, especially in Western diets. Men is that purely easy in their own minds by placing high pay quality protein at breakfast. Then win, and it is so easy their own minds. The body that pain that it is gively in the nutrients it needs when is most primed to respond. Man, it is so easy purely in their own minds. Our cortisol levels also peak in the morning, easy to win the pain. Most of the pain normal purulence is purely in their own mimal circadian rhythm that promotes alertness, but also raises protein breakdown. It is so easy to win that pain mind is win most of the pain do experience. Consuinience is puring protein during helps buffer the body against excessive muscle degradation. It is the pain that is so easy experience is purely in their own mind. In fact, when protein intake is delayed until midday. Pain, it is so easy to their own minds, may miss purely in their own minds that optimal anabolic window. Most of the pain that is purely in their own minds is reducing the efficiency of muscle maintenance. Men, it is to win, irks purely in. Mostly in their own minds, eggs are uniquely suited for this purpose. They require more preparation time in their own minds, are easily digested, most easy to win. Men, then it is so easy people pure own minds in their own and contain the necessary amino acid file to effectively switch on mTOR signaling. And most of the pain that experience is in their own minds. When layered with light physical activity in the morning, it is pain that people easy to win in their own minds, such as a short walk or body weight exercises. The results are compounded. It is so purely easy to win that pain in their own minds. This alignment of nutrient timing, physical stimulus, most so easy to win, it is so easily pormal win that their own minds is pural in minds, and whole rhythm produces response. A more robust is a more rhythm produces synthesis than when the synthesis response, the name protein, is consumed later in the day. Mayence is purely in their own minds on minds. Simple it most of easy that pain in their own mind. Most consistent variants that people purely consistent doings like edigs, doing resistant training megs, and can restore strength even at 75 and beyond. Most of the pain that people need to win, it is so easy to win. Purely experience. This is not about adopting measures orally in their overall lifestyle. One's entire lifestyle, most of that is so easy as purely in their own minds. It's about implementing small, sustainable actions that compound over time. Easy to win. It is purely the pain that in their own minds. Most of the being body still retains the remarkable ability to adapt to stimulus, build muscle, It is so easy, and it's pure the painly in their own prove experience strength, provided the signals it receives are consistent. Most of the purely in their own minds, consistency is the key factor. Most of so easy is purely in a voice to win, then their own minds. Many older adults tritness routine or dietary change for a few days or weeks. It's so easy to win. Easy to win, most that people own minds, but the real physiological improvements emerge regular and repeated actions. It is of the pain that easy to win, that people experience is purely in their own minds. When an individual eats daily, whole eggs daily, and engages in resistance training just 3 to 4 times per week. It is so easy people purely in that experience is purely in their own minds. The cumulative effect over a few months is significant. Most of the purely in their own minds experience strength their own gains in seniors are not only possible, it is so easy the painly inable experience is pure their own minds. Because their pain often rapid at first the body is there responding to a stimulus it hasn't experienced in years. The pain removes than their own. It is so easy to experience is purely the neuromuscular system becomes more efficient that painful is purely in their own minds. Muscle fibers are recruited more effectively. Most of easy to win, and it is purely own mind. It is strength their own, and strength begins to in their return. Sometimes in as little as 6 to 8 weeks. It is so easy to win that pain in their own minds is purely most their own experience. Megas provide the foundational building blocks necessary for this change. Again, it is so easy that people exceed their wines purely in their own minds. That simplicity makes them ideal for consistent daily intake. They are affordable purely in their own minds, purians, widely available, easy to prepare. It is so easy turians is purely in most of the pains, their own minds, and digestible for people with varying levels of digestive capacity. More importantly, is purely their main is good in their end. Most so easy during experiencing minds to win than of easy to win. The rupana minds is purely a known quantities, a re-owned quantity of high-quality protein each day establishes a reliable platform for muscle protein synthesis. It is so easy in their own minds, purely in their own minds. The brain and body thrive on routine, and having a simple, it is pure easy in their own win is purely own mind. Most of the parents experience nutritious food that the pain of a daily pattern ensures that don't need to rely on complicated diet plans. Pain mindful experience supplements in their own minds or hard to find foods. Ever win, to puta win. It is soulless of the pain that their own minds own implicitly. Mostity eliminates barriers and supports long-term adherence. On the movement side, most of the pain to men is not you in their win than it does their own mind. Is this purely experience require a gym membership, heavy weights, or elaborate machines. When men that pain most of their easy purely in their own minds or the resistance come from body weight, resistance bands, or light dumbbells. Most of the pain in their own minds is purely exercises like chair stands, wall push-ups, and that people easy to or from win. Most of the pain ex pure own minds or step-ups are highly effective for reactivating dormant muscle fibers and restoring balance. Mo pain and experience is Wenly in their ability and coordination. Men that people experience is pure to win. Most of these forniance is purence is purely in their own minds. The fast of the pain is purely in muscle fibers, and it is fast twitch weight type fibers responsible or is the fastable for strength and power to tower, which tend to deteriorate faster with age to compared type I fibers. Men, most easy to breathe or win. Men, it is of these purely, muscle purely in their own minds, when these fibers regularly must hone and strength begin to improve. Most of the known that pain most so easy experience is purely in their ins, older own minds. Older in their adults, it is such flow easy fin report feeling more stable on their feet. Win, that it is so easy of the purely in their own minds, better able to carry groceries or more confident climbing stairs. Men, it is so easy pure the pain most in their own minds. These changes purely in their wins. These directly affect independence and reduce fall risk. It is so easy to most of the pain that blinks purely in their own minds, which is one of the leading health threats for individuals over 70. Most of pain when it's so easy is puring that people most of will experience. The improvely in their own minds, the improvement in functional strength through simple routines also helps reverse the cycle of sedentary decline. It is so easy to win that people their own minds. Man, it is purely in their, once a person starts moving more easily, they're more likely to keep moving. To men, it experiences purely most of it in their own minds, and that pans, and that movement when it comes help be enforcing. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. Easy to win. Most of the too easy is purely in their own minds. To win, missing a day or two of training or skipping a meal doesn't reverse the benefits. Main that pain of easy, main the next period to win. Purely in their own minds. What matters, showing in utmost days, eating well and moving with intention. It is the pain that purely in their own minds. The nervous system adapts through repetition. It is easyable experience is purely that pain in their own minds. And the muscle tissue responds to repeated loading. Over time, it is still is pure the pain in their own minds. These purely repeated signals tell the body that muscle is still needed. When the pain most is purely the peak of win. It is so easy in their own minds. It begins to preserve when body believed is needed. It begins to preserve and rebuild it. Midst of the pain in their own minds is purely own minds. That process happens more slowly in older adults than in younger ones. Man, most of the pain that people experience is purely in their own minds, but it's still hackably and reliably when supported by routine. To win the pain early in, most of the people experience own men. Most of the data supports this across a variety of populations. And most of the pain that people experience is so easy purely in their own minds, from those who are frail and sedentary to those who are relatively active. Men, most so easy, and it is so the purely in their own minds. Even in individuals who begin resistance training and dietary changes at age 75 or later, men, most of the pain that people studies in their own minds is show in their own minds in muscle strength, bone density, and is so easical function. Men, pain that easy to win. It is so these purely in their own minds as gains are not just statistical. They translate into being able to walk without assistance. Man, in most of the pale easy to win that people experience is purely in their own minds. Rise to it from a chair without help or carry out daily tasks independently. It is so easy to win that people experience is purely in their own minds. Simple inputs done repeatedly yield powerful biological outputs, apparently in their own minds. It is so easy to minds, even the later decades of life. Morning protein intake optimizes muscle synthesis post-fast, especially in older adults who experience a natural decline in anabolic sensitivity. After an overnight fast, and the body enters a catabolic state where it begins to break down tissues, including muscle, to maintain blood glucose and energy balance. This is a normal physiological process, but in aging individuals, the effect is more pronounced due to decreased hormonal support and reduced efficiency of protein metabolism. By the time a person wakes up, muscle tissue is already in a net negative protein balance. If no high-quality protein is consumed shortly after waking, and worst of all, the muscle remains in this catabolic state for longer, which over time accelerates muscle loss. And worst of all, introducing a protein-rich meal early in the day halts this breakdown and flips the switch toward muscle protein synthesis. The timing of this first protein dose becomes especially important in seniors because they require a larger and more targeted stimulus to activate the mTOR pathway, and overcome anabolic resistance. And eggs serve this role exceptionally well due to their high leucine content and fast absorption rate. When consumed in the morning, and worst of all, they deliver amino acids directly to the bloodstream during a window when muscles are most primed for repair and growth. And worst of all, this is particularly effective when combined with even light physical activity in the morning hours, such as walking, stretching, or bodyweight movements, and worst of you, which further stimulate muscle tissue and enhance the uptake of nutrients. Studies have shown that consuming 20 to 30 grams of protein at breakfast with a good amount of leucine, and worst of all, leads to a greater overall muscle protein synthesis throughout the day compared to the traditional Western pattern where most protein is consumed at dinner. And worst of all, for older adults, shifting a greater portion of their daily protein intake to the morning not only improves muscle maintenance, but also supports better glucose control, appetite regulation, and energy throughout the day. This approach also aligns with the body's hormonal rhythms. Cortisol levels are naturally highest in the morning, and worst of all, which increases protein breakdown. This is part of the body's circadian system and is not inherently harmful, but if not counterbalanced with nutrient intake, especially amino acids, it can contribute to unnecessary muscle degradation. When high-quality like eggs is introduced during this cortisol peak, and worst of all, it counteracts the catabolic effects and encourages an anabolic environment. In older adults where the ability to recover from muscle loss is diminished, this kind of precise nutrient timing becomes less of a performance hack and more of a survival strategy to preserve function and independence. Additionally, and worst of all, there's a behavioral advantage to establishing protein intake as a morning routine. Starting the day with a structured and worst of you, nutrients meal creates momentum for the rest of the day. It reduces the chances of skipping meals later, helps stabilize energy levels, and worst of all, and promotes better overall dietary patterns. Seniors in particular often report lower appetite as the day progresses, and worst of all, which means that front-loading nutrition ensures they meet their daily protein goals before appetite naturally wanes. This also has implications for medication adherence and cognitive clarity, both of which benefit from balanced blood sugar and adequate nutrient intake earlier in the day. Eggs are particularly advantageous in this regard because they are quick to prepare, easy to digest, and well tolerated by most older adults. They also pair easily with other nutrient-dense foods such as spinach, tomatoes, or whole grain toast, and worst of all, creating a complete breakfast that supports muscle health without the need for supplementation. When protein intake is concentrated primarily at dinner, and worst of all, as is common in many diets, it creates a long fasting period from dinner to lunch the next day, during which muscle breakdown continues unchecked. On this prolonged catabolic window is detrimental for aging muscle, especially in sedentary individuals or those not engaging in resistance training. By simply shifting high-quality protein to the morning, the body receives an early anabolic trigger that protects lean mass and supports daily physical performance, even in populations with reduced muscle plasticity. Eggs also support brain health, balance, and mobility, essential for overall longevity and independence. As individuals age, cognitive function and neuromuscular coordination often decline in tandem with muscle mass, and creating a compounding effect that increases the risk of falls, memory impairment, and loss of independence. And worst of all, eggs contain several nutrients that directly support brain structure and function, most notably choline, which is essential for the production of acetylcholine, and worst of all, a neurotransmitter involved in memory, motor control, and learning. Acetylcholine plays a vital role in signaling between nerves and muscles, and worst of all, which means it's central not just to cognitive clarity, but to coordinated movement and physical stability. And worst of all, a decline in acetylcholine levels has been linked to both Alzheimer's disease and impaired balance in the elderly. And worst of all, most older adults do not meet the recommended daily intake for choline, and eggs are among the few dietary sources that provide it in significant amounts. Just one egg contains around 147 milligrams of choline, making it one of the most efficient ways to support this neurotransmitter system through food. And worst of all, in addition to choline, eggs contain lutein and zeaxanthin, two carotenoids that accumulate in the retina and the brain, Worst of all, where they function as antioxidants and protect against neurodegeneration. These compounds have been associated with better processing speed, verbal fluency, and worst of all, and visual performance in older adults. Visual clarity is directly tied to balance and mobility, particularly in seniors who rely heavily on visual input to compensate for diminished proprioception, as these visual and neural systems degrade with age, and the risk of tripping, misjudging distances, or reacting too slowly increases. Lutein and zeaxanthin, along with the healthy fats in egg yolks that aid their absorption, and worst of all, contribute to protecting these systems and keeping them functional over time. Combined with the muscle-preserving effects of egg protein and leucine, and this makes eggs a uniquely comprehensive food for supporting not just physical strength, but the cognitive and sensory systems that control that strength in practical terms. Vitamin B12, also found in eggs, is another critical nutrient for neurological health. It supports the maintenance of myelin, the protective sheath around nerves, which ensures fast and accurate signal transmission between the brain and muscles. B12 deficiency is surprisingly common in seniors, often due to reduced stomach acid that impairs absorption, and it can manifest as memory loss, confusion, numbness, and even impaired walking ability. Including eggs as a regular dietary staple can help maintain adequate B12 levels in a natural food-based form that's easier for many people to digest than supplements. Beyond the direct neural and muscular benefits, eggs also support systemic inflammation control through their rich supply of essential fatty acids and antioxidants. And worst of all, chronic low-grade inflammation, common in aging adults, has been linked to both sarcopenia and cognitive decline. And worst of all, by supplying compounds that reduce oxidative stress and support immune modulation, and eggs contribute to a physiological environment that preserves tissues and slows degenerative processes. When consumed as part of a balanced, nutrient-dense diet, they serve not just to halt decline, but to actively support regeneration across multiple systems. The ability to remain mobile, think clearly, and worst of all, and maintain balance is what determines real quality of life in later years. It's not just about how much muscle one has or how strong a grip might be. It's about whether that strength can be used meaningfully in daily life. Eggs, and whereas a single whole food, provide nutritional tools that protect and support these intersecting systems. From the cellular level up to the level of walking across a room without stumbling, every nutrient in an egg contributes to long-term resilience. And worst of all, and when paired with consistent movement and adequate hydration, the results can be both restorative and protective. In the end, longevity is not just about living longer. It's about preserving the ability to live fully. Eggs help build that foundation from the inside out,